Building prosperity, Ethiopia's 30 billion infrastructure gamble. What if a single announcement could redraw the map of Ethiopia's future, not with borders or battles, but with power, plants, airports, and millions of homes? Prime Minister Abiy Ahmed unveiling of a $30 billion infrastructure program during the inauguration of the Grand Ethiopian Renaissance Dam is more than a policy initiative. It's a declaration of intent. For a nation long defined by its landlocked status, external rivalries, and internal challenges, Ethiopia is now seeking to write a different story, one of energy, industry, and jobs. Hi, I am Samia Mohammed, and this is Analytica Today. On September 12, 2025, as the turbines of the GERD roared with new capacity, Abiy outlined a sweeping 6-year plan. 2 nuclear power plants, an oil refinery, and gas facilities, a major airport expansion, and 1.5 million new housing units form the pillars of this $30 billion investment. The government calls it a roadmap to prosperity. Supporters hail it as the boldest development agenda since the Derg-era dams and railways. Critics warn of depth and execution risks. Yet in the heart of Addis Ababa and beyond, the mood is one of cautious optimism, a belief that Ethiopia can not only finance its obligations, but also reduce dependency, expand employment, and reassert itself as an African growth engine. For international lenders, this plan signals seriousness about repayment. For citizens, it promises jobs and homes. And for Ethiopia's political leadership, it represents a counter-narrative that despite regional turbulence and encirclement, the country can chart a future of sovereignty and self-reliance. Nuclear power and the energy revolution, the headline project is a nuclear energy, 2 reactors of 1,200 megawatts each. For a country that has spent years wrestling with energy shortages, rolling blackouts, and export constraints, this is a game changer. The GERD already symbolizes Ethiopia's leap toward energy independence, but nuclear power adds stability, baseload electricity that complements hydro variability. Officials argue that nuclear will unlock new industries from aluminum smelting to high-tech manufacturing. It also positions Ethiopia in a select African club, joining South Africa and Egypt in deploying nuclear for civilians' use. For the Ethiopian government, this is not just about power, it's about prestige and resilience, proof that Addis Ababa can harness advanced technology for development rather than conflict. Skeptics point to cost overruns and safety concerns, but proponents see nuclear as hedge against climate variability and a magnet for foreign direct investment. By 2030, Ethiopia could become net exporter of electricity, powering neighbors while stabilizing its own economy. Refining oil, tapping gas, fuel imports have long drained Ethiopia's coffers. In 2024 alone, the country spent over $4 billion on refined petroleum products. The new plan seeks to change that equation, building domestic refinery and gas processing facilities that will cut dependence on external suppliers. For Addis Ababa, this is both economic and strategic. Reduced reliance on imports means fewer shocks from global price swings and a stronger balance of payments. For ordinary Ethiopians, it could mean cheaper fuel and more stable transport costs, critical for farmers, truckers, and small businesses. The refinery project is also framed as a part of a broader integration agenda, linking Ethiopia's nascent gas reserves with industrial demand and connecting pipelines to regional markets. And in government circles, the narrative is clear. What was once a vulnerability, energy imports can be transformed into a strength. Airports and gateways, Ethiopian Airlines has long been Africa's aviation leader, but infrastructure has lagged behind ambition. The $30 billion plan includes major airport expansions designed to ease congestion in Addis Ababa and position the country as a continental logistics hub. The move is strategic. As the global supply chain shifts and Africa's aviation market expands, Ethiopia is battling that air connectivity will bring investment, tourism, and trade. A stronger airport network also complements broader integration with the African Continental Free Trade Area. For Addis Ababa, this is more than an aviation project. It's a signal that Ethiopia intends to remain Africa's gateway, bringing markets from the Gulf to the continent's interior. Housing for a growing nation, perhaps the most politically potent element of the plan, is housing. 1.5 million units in 6 years. For a country with a rapidly urbanizing population, spiraling rents, and youth unemployment, this is transformative. Officials say the program will employ hundreds of thousands, engineers, construction workers, suppliers. It also promises social stability by addressing the housing deficit. The government hopes to reduce informal settlements and create new urban communities tied to infrastructure and services. Economists note that large-scale housing drives have multiplier effects, stimulating cement, steel, and service sectors. For Ethiopia, this is also about dignity, giving citizens tangible proof that their development is not abstract but built in concrete and brick. Financing, debt, and opportunity, the elephant in the room is cost. $30 billion over 6 years at a time when Ethiopia already carries significant debt. Yet government officials argue that the plan is precisely what will allow repayment. By reducing fuel imports, boosting exports, and expanding tax revenues through jobs and industries, Ethiopia aims to build the fiscal capacity to honor its obligations. Supporters note that infrastructure has historically been Ethiopia's pathway to growth, from the railways of Menelik II to the GERD itself. The plan, they argue, follows that lineage, bold, risky, but ultimately transformative. Critics caution that success will hinge on governance, transparency, and regional stability. Still, the prevailing narrative is one of the pride, that Ethiopia is not waiting for external saviors but charting its own path. The $30 billion infrastructure plan is on paper a gamble, but for Ethiopia, it's a wagon on itself. By investing in nuclear power, refining capacity, airports, and housing, Addis Ababa is signaling that the way out of debt and dependency is not retreat, but acceleration. For citizens, the promise is clear. Jobs, homes, and energy. For lenders, the message is reassurance. Ethiopia intends to repay. And for the Horn of Africa, the signal is unmistakable. A new Ethiopia is rising, not defined by encirclement, but by ambition. The stakes are high. If executed poorly, the plan could deepen debt and disappoint expectations. If executed well, it could redefine Ethiopia's trajectory, creating prosperity for a generation. As the turbines of the GERD turn and new projects break down, Ethiopia stands at a crossroads. Will this be remembered as a gamble that failed, or as the moment a nation chose to build its future brick by brick, what by what, home by home? That's all for today. Thank you for watching.